She's passionate about telling stories of amazing women who are rocking the world and empowering women to live, love, and thrive. Here's your host, Katherine Gray.
Hi, thank you so much for tuning in today. Welcome to Live, Love, Thrive, Women's Empowerment, of course, 360karma.com. We're so happy that you're joining us, and our wonderful guest today, who is the founder of an amazing company called Elevate Your Brand. Who doesn't need to know how to do that? And we're going to talk about her exciting journey. Please give a warm welcome to Laurel Mintz. Hi, Laurel. How are you?
I'm so great. Thank you for having me.
You're glad to have you here. Thanks to Phoenix Gonzalez, our mutual friend.
Shout out to Phoenix for sure.
Shout out to Phoenix. We were having a nice conversation about the fact that your dad grew up in the 60s in Laurel Canyon. Is that why they named you Laurel?
That is. And whenever I introduce myself to people, I always say I'm Laurel from Laurel Canyon. And I'll tell you, they never forget me after that.
That's right. That's right. And for those of you who don't know, obviously Laurel Canyon is a famous area here in Los Angeles. Your dad was a hippie.
He was a hippie. He lived in a commune, did probably way too many drugs. We don't talk about that. And then I came out of that, that lifestyle.
Yeah. No wonder you had such a cool kid, huh?
Oh, well, thank you. I will receive that.
So back in the 60s when he was living there, and then you, I know, ended up living there as a kid, it was such an anomaly. We were just chatting about this film that just came out called Echo of Laurel Canyon? I think that's the name of it. I actually wrote it down. Yeah, Echo in the Canyon. Mm-hmm. Echo in the Canyon. And Bob Dylan's son produced this movie. And it was such an unusual thing, Laurel Canyon, that you were named after, because never in history have all these famous artists all lived in one colony area. Yeah. I mean, it was the Mamas and the Papas, the Beach Boys, trying to think of all of them.
Well, my dad hung out
Grateful Dead.
Grateful Dead, Frank Zappa, Jefferson Airplane.
Right.
In fact, my dad and all his communal people were on the billboard over Sunset for Frank Zappa's 79 album. Pretty cool.
Oh my God. Yeah. I bet he has some stories to tell.
And probably
if he can remember them.
If he can remember them, and probably some I don't want to hear also.
Exactly. So anyway, that's so cool. I'd love to meet him sometime. I'm sure he has some great stories.
He can be your next guest.
Yeah, exactly. After he left the commune, he met your mom?
He did. My mom was the square.
Yeah.
And he was the hippie. And they actually were fixed up on a blind date, hated each other.
Oh, my God.
And
that's
then
funny.
They ran into each other years later at Arts Deli here in the Valley.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad asked my mom out again, and she said yes. And they both walked away thinking, why the hell did I do that? And they just really connected after that and stayed together. Yeah.
So I know you're married.
I am, happily, yes.
Happily married. Yes. I forgot to put that word in there, happily. And is your husband and you the same? Is there that dichotomy between the two of you?
We're very different. So I'm a Gemini and he's a Libra, which means he balances both my personalities on his scales. And for those who know me, they know that's very true. But he actually owns an agency also on the web design side. So his company is called Baby Steps. And we get to work together a lot, which is really fun. And he's an amazing balance to me. I'm more of a people person. I'm out there schmoozing and boozing. And he's an engineer and a programmer and developer. And he's really happy with the computer and me and our dogs.
Speaking of the Gemini, my wife has a son that's a Gemini, and she always says, I have two sons.
There you go. Yeah,
so I know all about that.
Depends on the day.
So are you the creative one or are you the business one? Or
yes.
I was going to say, because you sound like you're both.
I am.
So you're a little bit of mom and dad.
I call myself middle-brained because I have that very creative, artistic side. And then, my background, I was a corporate M&A attorney before I started the agency.
Oh,
and so I've got that very cerebral, operational side as well. So I feel very lucky to have both in combination.
Right.
It doesn't always work up here, but,
I hear you.
In life, it comes across pretty well,
I think I'm similar, a little bit of both. So back to your dad. So he, you had shared with me, had gotten cancer.
Yes.
And it was stage 4 cancer.
Yes, very serious.
And I think you probably, as most people with stage 4 cancer, you didn't think he was going to live. And I can imagine how frightening that is. We talk about these kind of stories because everybody has challenges in their life. And I can imagine that was one of your biggest, because at 26 years old, you had told me you had to take over his firm.
Yes.
Because he also is a lawyer.
No, he
No,
was in
not
the
lawyer?
furniture business.
Oh, furniture
Yes,
business.
yes.
So you took over the furniture business.
Yes, I stepped down from my firm to do that.
Oh,
Yes.
gotcha. Because I
Yeah.
knew you were a lawyer.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. I've had like
So-
18 lives.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So you took over this furniture business at 26 years old. Wow.
Yeah, I was
and
the only young woman in the company. I was the youngest person in the company, and I had a staff of 60. It was insane.
So
I kept
the-
thinking someone was going to come in and kick me out and tell me, you have no business being in here. That never happened, thank God. But
So you were not only the youngest, but for a female to be running a big company like that in that time frame was a big deal.
yes, absolutely. I think the education really helped, though, because I had all of the like kind of litigation practice, so I could like get up and pretend really well that I knew what the heck I was talking about. But it was, it was a
Were you
huge
scared
challenge.
to death running that company?
Of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, yeah. I
But
had
you
no
did a good
idea.
job.
I mean, he was able to step back in, and I stepped
Yeah.
away, and that's when I realized that this
Yeah.
was, my new path. So,
Right.
yeah.
So, I meant to say the happy story is that he
Yes.
survived.
Yes. Everyone can
stage
knock wood.
4
That would be great.
cancer. Yeah,
Yes.
let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So, this also gives hope to other people that have some sort of cancer that might be stage 4. I have another friend I had on the show, Beverly Hyman Feed, also was told she had 2 months to live.
Wow.
And now, 15 years later, I think she's like 84, 85 now. She's speaking, doing books, and is running businesses. And so sometimes the stage 4 cancer is surmountable.
It is. I mean, we were very lucky. He was
Yeah.
in with all the best surgeons, and I think I told you the gentleman that perfected the technique that he needed to survive played golf with his best friend every Sunday. So it was
my
like
gosh.
so random, and it was a miracle, truly.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Sometimes the universe intervenes and provides the right person to help. And in this case, I know you attribute it to the surgeon doing such a good job of removing the tumor.
Yes,
that
exactly.
that is the reason he survived.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That is amazing.
very
So,
lucky.
given that second chance on life, was he a different dad?
Definitely. I mean, I think he needed to overcome that as an issue, because I think when you go through something that is that traumatic, you need some downtime to kind of figure out your place in the world again. But he's such a wonderful father. I've always been super connected with him. He's really who taught me my business sense. But he's definitely different from it. Absolutely. I think he appreciates life a whole hell of a lot more.
Right,
Yeah.
right. What about you? How did it impact you? Thinking you might lose him, taking over that business. How did it impact you?
Well, it was really hard. I mean, I was the punching bag because he couldn't, do that with anyone else. I was the strongest one in my family.
Right.
So I had to step in and run the company that I had no idea what I was doing in.
Right.
I thought that I was totally derailing my path in life because I was like very linear partner track in the legal world. But honestly, it's such a great lesson about how even the things that you think are totally taking you on a path you never thought you would go down
Right.
are actually the things that are putting you on the right path in life. Because had that not happened, I would never have started my firm. I'd probably be miserable in a corner office making a load of money, but but really unhappy. So instead, I got to overcome this issue, make sure my family could survive emotionally and financially.
Right.
And I, from that was Elevate My Brand was born, and I'm
Right.
celebrating 11 years next month.
That is fantastic.
know.
I was thinking that. I was thinking that was going to be what you said, is that, and I feel exactly the same way, is that so many times in life we're like, why is this happening to me? And then coming to find out that you actually get something from it that benefits the next thing you're going to do. So I imagine that when you launched Elevate Your Brand, that you came with this, for a very young person, this wealth of knowledge from having run that business you got thrown into.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the school of hard knocks for sure, running my dad's company. But like you said,
Oh, not everything went right?
Oh yeah, no. It was rainbows and
Gee,
sunshine.
what a surprise, entrepreneurs,
But yeah, it absolutely taught me that nothing is insurmountable.
Mm-hmm.
That you just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Like even today, we have issues in the agency, but everything is surmountable if you keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Right. Yeah, I like that because a lot of people tuning in either have a business or want to start a business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like to disseminate information from actual entrepreneurs about, what that road is like and how they can perfect it. And, honestly, what you're doing, Elevate Your Brand, is helping companies big and small,
Absolutely.
right? Because brand is probably the most important component of a successful business. Perfect example. I have this pitch fest called She Angels, where women pitch their businesses, and they, are looking for funding and mentorship. And last year, when we chose somebody, the panel said to the girl, "You have to change the name of your business." And she's like, "No, I don't want to do that. This is my baby. This is what." Well, come to find out, months later, she does take their advice. She changes the name, her branding, and from that moment on, her product took off because once it had the right name, the right brand, it impacted her business.
Totally. It's all about connecting with your end audience, whether that's a service business or a product.
Yes.
And we hear this all the time. People get so connected and tied, and their ego is so deep in their business that sometimes they can't see their nose to spite their face.
Right.
And so those who are coachable, I think that's probably the number one tip for running a successful business. Always be coachable, always be learning.
Yes.
Because if you're so stuck in your own way, then you're going to be in your own way, and you're never going to be able to see what's possible and what the road really should look like. And there's a million people that have done it faster, better, stronger than you have.
Exactly.
Take the freaking advice.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Don't struggle. You don't have to.
Don't reinvent the wheel,
Totally.
right? I think you'll agree with me on this, is that as an entrepreneur myself, I always think, I have learned through the years, and I think you probably have too, I can't do everything.
Yeah.
I certainly can't do everything well. And I don't want to.
Right.
And that's the other thing. I don't want to.
Yeah, there's a big differentiation between being able to and not wanting to.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're both probably, for most people, most people aren't good at everything.
True.
But to find people that are really good at that thing that you're not, whether it be social media or creating a website or branding or whatever, and letting them do what they love, that they're good at, to free yourself up to do more of what you're good at, right?
Absolutely. I always call it, I always ask people, is this the highest and best use of your time? And if not, why the hell are you doing it?
Right, right.
And there's an exercise, I don't know if you've heard of this one, but if you write down all of your activities over the course of a month, or you look at your calendar and you take a red, a green, and a yellow highlighter.
Okay.
And in green, you highlight all of the areas that when you do this activity, whether it's networking, writing a creative brief, doing social media, whatever that is, that it lights you up. You highlight all of those in green.
Yes.
And then you highlight all of the things in red that just drain the energy out of you, that you hate doing, that you always put last on your list.
Right.
Those are red. Everything else is yellow, and everything in yellow is negotiable.
Right.
But the things that are red are non-negotiable, and you have to find someone else to do those activities.
Oh my God, I love that
Isn't that
exercise.
a good one?
That's a great one.
I can't take total credit for that. I've had a lot of great coaches along the way that have taught me well. So.
Right, right. Well, I think if we're smart, we're always taking information from different thought leaders and implementing it into our life.
Absolutely.
I know for me, there's like 7 things I do on a daily basis, and this one comes from here, and that one comes from over here. But these are the 7 that work for me to help me manifest things. And
everyone's different.
Yeah.
So different.
Yeah. You know. I think also everybody needs a coach. I know that's part of your business. I think people have to find a coach that they relate to, that does things in their genre or their vertical, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And because we all need a third party to bounce things off of, right?
Yes.
And get a different perspective. Otherwise, we can't see the forest for the trees sometimes, right?
I call it business therapy.
Yeah, yeah, business therapy. I love that.
Yeah.
Now, you work with some pretty big companies. I mean, Facebook.
Should I drop some names?
Yeah.
Facebook, Black Angus.
Verizon Wireless.
Verizon Digital,
Yeah.
Zendesk, Sprinkler, Tamara Mellon for shoe fans in the audience. Yeah, we've worked with a lot of amazing brands. We've been very lucky.
So do you work with big and small, or?
We do. I mean, I love Startup World because that means no one's messed up your marketing yet. So we get to start, from scratch and fresh and make sure that it's built the right way the first time.
Right.
But, the enterprise brands, they're great to have on your roster.
Yes.
You can learn a lot from them, and, they pay the bills. So the big brands allow us to work with smaller brands, and we have packages that work for both, of course.
That's great. Yeah. The bigger brands like Facebook and whatnot, you were telling me like companies like that do like thousands of events a year.
Yeah.
and you guys deal with all the vendors that make that event happen. So explain that to me. Like, I didn't even know there was a company that did that. So tell me, like, what you do.
This was a very unique scenario
Yeah.
for Facebook specifically, but because of our expertise in the event space, in the experiential space, and because of my legal background, there was this very interesting niche of need for them because they needed to standardize their processes, standardize their rate sheets and all of that. So we were brought in on this like special ops project
Cool.
to help execute that. And they do, almost 3,000 events globally a year.
Oh my gosh!
It's
Wow.
insane. It was a big project.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier for them to put on the events because everything now is succinct and
Yeah,
put into
absolutely.
a format that
all
you
about
guys
cost
created.
savings,
Right.
Mitigation
Yeah.
of costs of
Yeah.
expenses. Yeah.
What do you do for other clients like the Verizon Digital or other companies? What do you do for them?
So we're a full service agency, which means we do the full digital suite, web, content, social, advertising, and creative. And then we also do the full experiential suite. So launch events, trade shows, conferences, national field marketing. So I would say for the enterprise clients, we typically do one of those slivers, one of those categories. And for the smaller brands, the startup brands, we typically come on as agency of record so we can execute everything soup to nuts.
So can you tell me like about a specific type of startup that you helped? You can name it or not, but that you did all of their preliminary branding, their website and social media and everything, and like a story about that.
A success story?
Yeah,
A case
yeah,
study?
there you go.
A live case study?
Yeah.
So for anyone that has kids out there, there's a brand that is currently selling out in Costco, Walgreens, Target, you name it. And it's called Squishmallows. And the company came to us. They were a wholesale manufacturer of these plush toys. And they knew that it was important for them to build a brand because they
Right.
wanted to own a brand.
Right.
And so they had the concept, they had the manufacturing, but they had no idea what it was going to be. So they came to us and we basically have now developed over 250 characters.
Yeah.
Every character has a different personality and persona. And for example, like Hoot the Owl is really into reading. And so kids that are into that category love that specific character.
Oh,
so they are
cool.
really like the new pillow pets.
Yeah.
People are losing their minds over collecting them. Adults too. They've actually become almost like safety animals.
Yeah.
They take with them when kids with disabilities are obsessed with them. It's just been an amazing brand to launch.
Wow.
People are obsessed. So we did all of the branding, messaging, positioning,
Yeah.
social, web, creative, experiential, everything. We've been working with them for like almost 3 years now.
So someone like has a product and then they come to you and say,
Or even
okay.
a concept.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
even just a
Yeah.
concept. And you say, how do we blow it out there? Now, do you help them get it into Walmart or is that a different company or?
So we have some relationships with those big box retailers. This
Wow.
brand in particular already had relationships because they were selling through big box from a wholesale perspective.
Right.
A white labeling rather.
But someone could come to you with a concept and say, I want to build this brand and I want to market it to Walmart or whoever, Costco or whatever, and you can help them implement that?
And we've got
Yeah.
We've obviously got relationships within those companies, but I would say most of the big boxes have what they call open buy days. So it's important for the companies to go through that process and understand how to really maximize their pitch to
Right.
those kinds of companies. But certainly
Right.
we can make introductions. I never promise. That's not
Right.
our distribution and wholesale and
Right.
retail modeling. That's not our area of expertise, but it certainly has become
Right.
a connection and a value add because of the
Right.
relationships we've built.
You can put them in the right direction because a lot of times
Absolutely.
people will have like a really great idea. I actually know someone that just got a patent on a product. My guess is they probably don't know how to brand and market it. I have to put you in touch.
Absolutely, please do.
You would build their website and then like what other materials? Their social media and
Social is huge, advertising. So I think people think if you're going to just launch a brand that if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
But in today's market, especially in the digital space, there is so much noise in almost every category. And
Right.
even though these people always think they have the most amazing product in the category and there's no competition,
Right.
that's never true.
Right.
So our job is to find out what makes those brands different and tell that narrative in a way that breaks through the noise on each specific target channel. And we do that through a very specific
Right.
testing methodology. So we can say, this is our hypothesis on what your audience is going to respond to from a creative perspective
And
or
this
from a
would be
messaging.
like on Twitter,
Facebook, Instagram, Google AdWords,
All of it,
all
yeah.
creative really.
Yeah.
And in fact, those platforms are the best platforms to test your creative on first because you can test with a much smaller spend.
Right.
And the numbers don't lie, right? That's the
Right.
great thing about digital.
Right.
We can literally test and A/B test
Right.
multiple messages, multiple images, and then come back to our clients and say, this was our hypothesis,
Right.
this is what actually worked, this is where we're going to put your money.
Right. It is fascinating, the digital way that you can target things, because my background actually was in cable television advertising.
that, yeah.
And so, you would run an ad and maybe they're interested in the product, maybe they're not. But this digital thing has just been amazing, how you can literally match up the user with what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Car or a shirt or shoes or whatever. It's amazing. You're in the right place, that's for sure.
It takes a lot to do, for sure.
Yeah. And I know you write for like Inc. magazine and have had some of your articles on entrepreneur.com.
I had my own show called Female Founders, so
Right.
following in your footsteps.
Yes, yes. And we can still find that on YouTube.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. The article that I last saw that you did that was on entrepreneur.com was about how do you create your marketing branding budget.
Yes.
And I think that would be something good to leave people with as to how, what, of course they could look up the article, but what was the gist of that? What's some good tips on that?
Actually, if they're really interested, there's a marketing guide on our website in the upper left-hand corner that they can download. So that will help them really walk through this process. But in terms of
And it is
elevatemybrand.com,
right,
thank
that's
you.
what I was going to say, elevatemybrand.com.
It's like those who can't do teach, right? We never do our own marketing. But in terms of figuring out, we call it marketing math, right?
Yeah.
So a company that is 5 to 10 years old plus,
Yes.
who already has a foothold in the market, really doesn't need to spend as much as a startup brand. So typically, in terms of percentage, a brand that is more established can spend anywhere between 6 and 12% of their projected gross revenue on marketing services.
Got it.
Now,
So it's a percentage.
It's a percentage, yes. Now, for startups, it is either a percentage of their projected gross for if they're not launched yet, and that number more than doubles from about 15 to 25% of projected gross.
Right.
Now, that is just kind of a guideline, because obviously if you've got a brand and you have no revenue projected, then it's a very different conversation.
Right.
Then I would say it's important to do an analysis of your competitors in the space and see what they're spending in
Right.
terms of their advertising. People can go on and use a platform called SEMrush. It's a platform we use as an agency. You can do reports on all of your competitors in the space,
And see
it
what
should
they're
help
doing.
guide you in that capacity.
Yeah, I had a friend that was, a branding expert, and they said that they were telling me that the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make is they put the branding and marketing at the bottom of their list.
Oh, yeah.
And that it really is the most important make or break the business.
Yeah.
It should be like the first priority.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, I'm biased.
Yeah, right.
But it's like dating. Like, if someone showed up and they looked like a schlub,
Right.
would you ever want to go out with them again?
Right.
Probably not. Or if they
Right.
had
I know
some...
you go to the website, there's misspelled words, and I'm like, no, I'm not buying from
Oh, my
them.
God, that makes me,
Yeah.
like, twitchy.
Yeah. I'm sure. So as we wrap up, what is like your advice to female entrepreneurs trying to get something off the ground? I think a lot of women are even launching businesses later in life. They have a career, and then they're ready to do something new and different with their final chapter that is something that makes a difference in the world. I think
More
there's more and
impactful.
more people doing that. Besides telling them to go for it, which I always say, what would be your words of wisdom as a successful business owner?
Oh, God, that's such a loaded question.
It is, yeah.
I would say, in terms of guidance, it's so important to have an advisory board so that there is a team to hold you accountable to the success that you want to see. Because
That's
so many
great advice.
entrepreneurs, they just kind of start and then they do piecemeal, and there's no one. That's the thing about being an entrepreneur. It's a very lonely mountain, right?
Yes.
So if you create a great advisory board of, let's call it 5 people, each of whom has a different skill set that adds value to your business, and then you hold a quarterly advisory board meeting and
Yes.
you have a really specific agenda agenda and they can call you out on the action items that you said you were going to do for your brand, that helps to drive you forward, right?
And I always found my advisory board, too, obviously gives me input and ideas that I otherwise wouldn't think of, and they're all really smart women. Who's on your advisory board?
I have a great lawyer because I need to make sure that I'm bouncing my ideas off of someone that actually has that understanding. My god sister, who actually runs a successful agency out in San Francisco called Gershoni, so she does a lot of the similar work that we do.
Right.
I have a CPA who I adore, who
smart.
I talk to about all of our finance issues.
Yeah.
My husband, who is on the website, so he understands what's new and next in that digital world,
Right.
From a development standpoint. And then I'm missing one person, and they're going to kill me. Oh, I have a retail specialist, so someone who understands CPG specifically, because that's a big piece of who we serve.
You know what I love? You're walking the walk and talking the talk. That is an amazing advisory board you just set up there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's every component of things that you probably don't do and that they're really good at, and that's why you're so successful. So that was a great piece of advice.
And
Thank
they call me on my BS, too.
Well, that's why we
Sometimes
love them.
you need.
Well, thank you so much for being on and sharing, and I hope people visit Elevate Your Brand.
Elevate my brand.
Elevate my brand. Or
We
elevate
own both.
your
It's
brand.
okay, actually. It redirects. It's totally fine.
I wanted to elevate mine.
Yeah, same.
Elevate your brand. And and I know you're giving back too. I always love that. A woman who gives back and pays it forward. You're with the Founders Network and also with the Women's Global Initiative.
And NIFTY, Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, which is an amazing organization that teaches young kids how to be entrepreneurs.
Oh, I love that. So that's some good advice. They got to check that out
involved.
if they're young and wanting to get into this. And I heard a lot of kids, they surveyed like fifth graders, and like 50% of them said they wanted to be entrepreneurs. So
Yeah.
now
I hope so.
You know, when we were getting started in it, you know, it wasn't as popular, but nowadays everybody wants to be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely true.
Right place, right time for your business.
Totally.
Thank you. And thanks for tuning in. We hope you'll check out
Elevate my brand.
Elevate My Brand and visit the website and check out Laurel. Thanks for tuning in. Make it a great week. Hugs and happiness.